So guys, in this little breakdown I'll walk you all through the process of making this Fakemink 3D character using FaceGen, Dash 3D, Blender, Marvel's Designer and Substance Painter. Let's get into this. I always start my character creation process off by collecting the reference images, most importantly portraits, which we'll use in FaceGen. There you will need a high quality front face image and one side profile picture. The quality of the side profile doesn't really matter since we won't be using it for the texture, only for the shape. With that out the way, let's upload the first image to FaceGen and set up the points according to the example. Same with the side profile. You should now get a pretty accurate result, but you might also need to tweak the face a bit more. For that, FaceGen got some tools like Interactive Modify, or you can control the parameters for each facial part separately with sliders. Once you're happy with how everything looks in FaceGen, we can move on to Dash 3D. So let's now hit File, select the name, Genesis version, your Dash library directory and export the data. Now in Dash 3D actor parameters you should be able to just type in the name you set in FaceGen and use your morph on the character. At that point they might look a little weird, so let's add the textures. To do so, we gotta head over to surfaces where we'll have to apply our FaceGen textures to each part of the body accordingly. Your texture directory should show up after you completed the export in FaceGen. Our character is ready, we can now export him out as an FBX to Blender, where we'll do most of the work. After importing it in Blender, we gotta fix some issues though. For some reason all of the textures have their metallicness set to 1, so let's remove it so the body doesn't shine. Now let's make the tear mesh transparent and mess with the eye color by using a hue saturation mode. Now I can use one of my pre-made hairline textures to make the skin around there a bit darker. After that I usually mess a bit more with the face by using proportional editing and the grab sculpt brush. Now it's finally time for the hair. Starting off with the eyebrows, I created a new vertex group and painted the area where they are placed. After that I created a new particle hair system and used this vertex group as a density map, so hair only grows there. Finally we can use the particle edit tool to lay the eyebrows down the way we want them to be. Same technique was used for the mustache and the goatee, except I also added some random roughness to the goatee to make it more messy. For the scalp, I just duplicated a part of the head where it is and moved it a bit under the rest of the head so it's not clipping through. Now I can just add another hair particle system to it and make it shorter. Just like that, we got a buzz cut. Now in Fakemink case, I just found a random long hair model online and only left the back of it to place on the head. With that, we got this mullet. Our character base mesh is just about done, so let's finally tweak the body by using the same old sculpt brushes and proportional editing. In my case I had to make it a bit slimmer to match the original physique. With that we can finally add some slippers to the model and export them with the body as an alembic to Marvel's Designer, to kick off the clothing creation process. I got a bunch of full tutorials and process videos regarding clothing creation on my channel, so definitely check those out if you're interested. Here I started by making the boxers with the jeans. Most of my outfits come from real life references, in this case I used these 3. With the baggy jeans out the way, there was now a simple t-shirt and a zip-up hoodie to cover. All of those are pretty generic garments, so I'm not gonna spend too much time explaining how I made them. After making the 2 separate UV sets for the hoodie and the rest of the outfit, I moved to Substance Painter for texture. Here, after making the mesh maps, I started with the jeans by using some basic denim textures from my own pack, which you can purchase on my Patreon by the way, and overlaying a bunch of real-life images on them to add more details. For the shirt I just used a simple fabric material and added a Supreme logo. Same for the underwear, but I also had to overlay these notes textures on the waistband. I wanted to make the hoodie be knitted, so the standard Substance Painter texture worked flawlessly. Now I just had to add a little Louis Vuitton logo and color traps. Moving on to Blender, you can see that our character really starts getting together. We can now finally rig him. For that I'll be using a free service by Adobe called Mixamo. Before starting though, we need to prepare our model for the export. The main downside of Mixamo is that you can't import models that have PBR textures like roughness and metallicness in. So let's make a new Blender file, call it for rig, and get rid of such textures. We'll reapply them later. You might also need to remove all the blend nodes you've used in your materials, like hue saturation. Now we can finally export this model as an FBX, drop it into Mixamo, let it load, set up all the points and get this final amazing rig. After importing your newly rigged model to Blender, there is a really important first step. Select your rig, go into pose mode, select all the bones by hitting A, remove the keyframes, hit F3, search for pose, clear transform all, and hit it. Now go back into object mode and rotate your rig 90 degrees before applying all transforms to it. This will basically reset all the rotation issues Mixamo for some reason has when exporting to Blender. Now you probably noticed that we don't have a bunch of textures we deleted. The easiest way to bring them back is to hit File, Append, locate your original Blender file, go into Materials and select all the materials you've removed. In my case these were the clothing textures and ones for the head, with complicated node setups. For the facial hair you'll have to redo it on the new mesh, though it should be way quicker if you already got the hang of it. If you want, you can even use this data transfer modifier to just copy the vertex maps for stuff like eyebrows and mustache from the original model. Also, remember the scalp mesh we used? Well, now we can just copy it into our rigged character scene and attach it to the rig with this child of constraint set to the head bone. Now, finally, our Fakemink character is complete and can be used in all kinds of renders and animations. Just wanna let you know that the complete 5-hour creation course with all the assets for this character is available on my Patreon if y'all wanna learn. Huge shout out to all the patrons who support me on there, just really grateful, can't even thank you guys enough. But yeah, I hope y'all liked the video and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.